Hey everyone, welcome back to Stag Voiceover. My name is Neil Glasgow. So in today's video, I'm going to go over some of the questions that I've had this week and give you one of those videos about why you're not getting voiceover work. But what I'm going to give you is also what you can do about these problems. So these are the 5 main reasons you probably aren't getting hired for voiceover and what you can do about it. Let's get into it. So coming in at number 5, it's your space, your recording space. Now, I've talked about this probably ad nauseum at this point if you've been watching the channel, but it's one of the things that I talk about a lot with the people that I work with, the students that I work with, the people that just phone me up for advice. One of the first questions I always ask them is, what is your recording space? Now, let me be very clear. You don't need a booth, right? You need a booth eventually, but you don't need a booth starting out. If you're working out of a wardrobe, a pillow fort, a hobo fort, it doesn't matter, right? The important thing is it's as acoustically treated as possible. Now, let me just differentiate a couple of things for you. Soundproofing and acoustic treatment are two radically different things. Soundproofing is what you might see in like a cinema, okay? Those are really heavy-duty panels. They are insanely expensive, and the reality is you don't need it. Unless you live above a subway line. Yeah, you know, all that noise coming in, you've got your washer dryer in your room where you're recording, you do not need soundproofing. You need acoustic treatment, okay? This stuff behind me, this is acoustic treatment. You can pick it up really cheaply. You can get, I think, 60 panels on Amazon for about 45 quid. I mean, it's really not that expensive. But what you see is this is quite heavy foam. And as you can see in the background, I've angled it in different ways. Now, why does that matter? Basically, my voice is twofold. It's getting absorbed by the foam material, but also because it's angled at different ways. And as you can see here, it's an angle, so a triangle. It's essentially diffusing the sound. So what that does is all this ambient sound that I have in the booth that I'm making, none of it is getting into this. This is picking up my direct sound, okay? So important. So you might be thinking to yourself, right, well, I'm working out of a wardrobe. What can I do about that? When I started out, and I've told this story before, I essentially had an old mattress on one side of me. I had some it was a insulation wall this side of me, and I draped myself in blankets, and I taped linens and bed sheets and stuff to the mattress and the wall, and I just covered myself in this horrible little fabric fort essentially. But what it did really well was it dampened my sound. And that's what you need to do. It's going to be hot as hell in there. Even on a cold day, it's not going to be comfortable. But what it is going to be is really good quality sound. I know people that make really good money in a wardrobe surrounded by their clothes. And ultimately, you can too. But any hard surface, you know, a shelf, cover it. A roof, cover it. The wardrobe wall, cover it. Anything that's hard, that is reflective, it's going to bugger your sound. And I promise you, if you're out there and you're in competition with other people and you're doing auditions, experienced audio engineers that are casting for these things, they're going to hear it and they're going to go, yeah, maybe we might put them in the maybe pile, but you'll very rarely get through to the final product. And that's really my, number 5 reason that you're probably not getting hired. Coming in at number 4 is your mic probably isn't good enough. And there's really only one fix for that, and that's get a better mic. Now, you know me, I've got my Youre 540S and I love it. It is not a cheap mic, okay? Reality. If you can get it refurbished, grab it. If it's $300-400, grab it, right? It'll be worth the investment, I promise you. However, getting a better mic doesn't necessarily mean you need to chuck hundreds and hundreds of dollars or pounds or whatever your denomination is at the problem. what you need to do is make sure that you get a microphone that fit for purpose and works. Now, I've just done a video on the Blue Yeti microphone, and actually that's $120, $130, and it's a really good microphone. It's very sensitive, but actually its noise floor is really good, and if you get it into the right space, it's not going to pick up all the stuff. For $120 odd, that's really worth an investment. But say you've gone out and you've invested in something and think you've got a good microphone. There are a few tests that you can do, especially if you're using Reaper. There are ways that you can measure the ambient noise that this thing is picking up. Now, there's a setting in Reaper that is EQ, FFT plus dynamic. And you can run a noise floor analysis. Now, I showed that in my last video, and it essentially says, this is what it's picking up in a completely silent room. And with the Blue Yeti, for example, it peaked, I think, around negative 56 dB. That's still really quiet. My Lou, it's inaudible. It's minus infinity, essentially. But if you've got a microphone and you run that pattern, if you're peaking anywhere over negative 40, negative 30, you're really going to struggle to get quality sound coming out the back of that, because that is picking up not only whatever noise the microphone makes, especially if it's a USB mic, it's picking up your room. So one thing that I would always advise doing is buy your microphone. Remember, you can always return it if it doesn't work, but test it in your space. This microphone in a poor space, meaningless. This could be a £1 million microphone. I get it in a pants space, it doesn't matter. It's going to pick up all the wrong things. So just run the analysis on your microphone, find out where it's peaking, do your research on the microphones that you're getting, find out what they're best for. If it says things like podcasting and streaming, doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be good for voiceover, but I would always say if you're going to buy a microphone or you're going to invest some money in it, try and make £100 or dollars your baseline. Anything under that, I've very rarely seen a microphone that I would be confident saying that someone could get a job. If an audio engineer hears, something from a Lewitt or an NT111, and then they hear a really great audition, but the microphone is full of hiss and buzz and crackle, that's probably one of the big reasons you're not getting hired. That's number 4. Number 3, you're late to the audition. That's kind of it, really. If you're late to an audition, and what I mean by this is, it's not, oh, you missed your 12 o'clock. It's, you got the email and you didn't get to it until 2 days later. You're probably at the bottom of a very large pile. And the reality is, you're probably just not even being listened to. The best practice that you can do as soon as you get notified of an audition is to drop whatever you're doing, throw the baby out with the bathwater, and get in your booth and start recording. I realise that is not practical for a lot of people. I miss a whole load of auditions because I've got other things on. I realise life gets in the way. But the reality is, if you are late to an audition, especially an audition that goes out to dozens, if not hundreds of people, you will get lost in the fray. If you're not in the top 50, 60, 100 at a push, and I really mean at a push, I wouldn't waste your time. The only thing you're going to get off that is a good audition segment for your reel if you want to use it that way, but chances are if you're late to your audition, you're not getting heard, you're not getting hired. Coming in at number 2, I feel like I'm doing the top 40 here, is you're just not the right person for the role. And the reality is, there is pretty much nothing you can do about that. Now, I know I said, here are the things that you can do to fix it. Don't audition for it. Don't waste your time. I'll give you a little story. I've said it before, I went to theatre school. I used to do auditions all the time, and I would get casting directors come back to me and say things like, that was really good. We've just thought that the character we have in mind is a much larger man. Can you give us a larger read? Translation, they want a fat guy to do the role. Fine. It's that sort of thing. I'm not going to waste my time auditioning for child roles. I'm not going to waste my time auditioning for female roles. I'm not going to get them. If someone wants a Texan accent, well, I can put on, my best yeehaw. It's not going to get me the job. I can definitely do a better accent than that. But it's that sort of thing. Look at what they're actually asking for. And if you're on some of these websites that say, hey, you're a 100% match, you know which ones I'm talking about. You're a 100% match for this, get in and get auditioning for it. And then if you do any sort of reading or due diligence on it, you realise you're never going to get hired for it. It's the rarest of air that someone does an audition and someone hears it and completely changes the whole spec for what they're looking for. So, again, don't waste your time doing auditions you are not right for. That's number 2. And reason number 1, you need some training. We all do. I still do training, I provide training, and I still go out and I look at what other people are doing. I go to seminars, I do a whole bunch of stuff. But I'm not just talking about can you act, can you emote, can you do, all the doing. It's not just about someone's ability to project and get a character across. And I'll give you, again, another real example. I know a few audio engineers who have said to me, we cast this really great actor and actress, and we got them into the booth and they gave us a great performance and we couldn't use it. Why? This is going to be horrible, but it's all the mouth noise. A lot of people can't help that sometimes, but you can train it out. I don't pick up a massive amount of mouth noise in and of myself because, again, I've sort of trained my mouth to move in a certain way. You can lose so much work by giving the best performance of your life, but if they have to go through and edit out dozens and dozens of clicks and pops and mouth noises, it just becomes so noticeable. It's a massive effort on their end to do that. It costs them money to do that. And ultimately, for the people that I'm talking about, they've said to me it was cheaper and faster to just recast that person. If you don't have training, if you are a complete amateur at this, can you get work? Absolutely. Are you going to build a career without ever doing that stuff? Could you build any other career without any training? It's not going to happen. So do yourself a favour, and when you can afford it, go and get some training. Ask some questions. Figure out how to make this work. There are hacks and tips. There's chewing gum, and I use lime in my water for the acid to thin out my saliva. There's a whole bunch of stuff you can do. There are forums after forums after forums about this sort of thing. But the reality is, if you don't do the doing, do the learning, spend the time and develop yourself, it will always be a blocker. And I know so many people that do hundreds and hundreds of auditions and barely land any of them, and it's because of one of those 5 reasons, which is why I put that 5 list together. So, if you relate to any of these 5 reasons, if these are resonating with you in any way, please reach out. I can answer any questions I can. Reach out to the forums, again, on Reddit, voiceover advice. You can speak to the community that we have here on the channel. But ultimately, if you adjust to some of the things that I'm talking about, even one will make a difference. Start basic and grow. That's how we all develop in voiceover. If you've liked the video, give it a like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell because, that makes a difference to the whole channel. And I really do appreciate the support. And genuinely, you can do your training, build a better booth, get a better mic, and be a voiceover artist. I'll see you in the next video.